Welcome to the Firefly webinar on how to create presentations that rock. I'm Andi, and I've been working with Firefly to bring the summit to life. You've already received a few emails from me, and I look forward to working with you more closely over the coming months. We initially recorded this webinar last week, but because of some sound troubles, we have re-recorded the audio because we wanted everyone to be able to hear clearly. Now let's get started. Rapid-fire presentations have grown in popularity in the last few years. For example, TED Talks, which I'm sure we have all seen, are renowned for their short-form conference presentations that are highly visual, incredibly memorable, and have very impactful slides. We wanted to ensure that all speakers are familiar with and feel comfortable with the rapid-fire presentation format that we're using at the Firefly Summit. And since many of you may not be familiar with giving a talk that has time constraints or slide criteria, we're going to present some tips to crafting your presentation and your accompanying slides. One thing of note, in this presentation for the webinar, we've tried to model what great slides are all about. They're a complement to your great presentation. First of all, this webinar is designed to help you get familiar with the rapid-fire form. So let's talk about the rules for a minute. Humans have a short attention span when it comes to passively sitting and listening to a speaker. Audience attention is greatest at the opening, and then again when you say something like, "in conclusion." This is just the human condition. So taking that into consideration when designing the rapid-fire sessions, they're structured as 10-minute presentations and 10 slides total. And because of this limitation, this presentation format takes a little bit more prep time. So if you're wondering why 10 minutes, well, because it works. An audience is good at focusing on one subject at a time in relatively short chunks. And if you're thinking to yourself, but I bet I can probably go over 10 minutes a little bit. We're going to tell you no, because then it wouldn't be a rapid-fire talk. The time limit is part of what makes this format work. And remember, shorter talks are not lesser talks. It may only take 5 minutes for you to make your point unforgettably. We will just note here that we've had a couple of speakers withdraw, and we are just reworking the agenda, so we may actually give you a few more minutes and a couple of extra slides, so to stay tuned for more information on that. Before you even open up PowerPoint, we encourage you to sit down and really think about the day of your presentation. What is the real purpose of your talk? What do you want your audience to remember afterwards? Most of us can actually only remember 3 things. And so we need to really craft our message succinctly and have a strong through line so that all of our stories, case studies, jokes, examples work to support those 3 things that we want our audience to take away. When you think about what you want your audience to remember, each of you have already submitted learning objectives, which really help to create this storyboard for your presentation. As with generic presentations, I suggest that all rapid-fire presenters start with an outline. You can call your outline a structure, a story, some notes, a storyboard, but most importantly, I recommend starting with a non-digital version. Personally, I work with cue cards or post-it notes for my main ideas, one idea on each card. And then I can start to think about the flow and the order and change and delete as I go. On each cue card, I write the main idea and then quickly jot down a couple of quick sentences about that idea. What would I think about talking about for that slide? On the reverse side of the post-it or the cue card, I often start to write notes around what a great picture would be to support the idea that I'm making. This is also an important time to think about how your case studies and stories and images that will support each other. We want it all to be really neatly wrapped up and very, very memorable. First and final impressions last. Improvised talks often suffer from a slow start or a limp finish. Thinking of a good opening and a good closing, and then practice them. If you can start and finish strongly, you and your audience will both feel better. Step 2 is about creating your slides. Now that you have a bit of a storyboard and some ideas around what pictures or images might support your presentation, we begin in PowerPoint or Keynote creating our slide deck. People need to process everything you're saying while simultaneously absorbing your slides. Slides with too much text are tiring to read. Slides should complement your speech, not the other way around. Think of your slides as a billboard. How much small print do you see on a billboard as you drive past? Probably not too much. When crafting PowerPoint slides, less is more. Thinking of a strong, powerful image or a single line of text really can say more than putting too much data on your slide. Even simplifying graphs down to the essence that you want someone to take away can be very, very effective. In the rapid fire format, we have limited the amount of text that you can put on individual slides to 8 words, simply because if your audience is reading, they're not listening. If you have an idea that has a few different bullet points, consider putting different points on different slides, just like we've done in this presentation. When you're choosing a font for your text, choose a common font, something like a sans serif font, either Helvetica or Verdana, those are very common ones, over a serif font like Times, just because they are simpler on the eye to read. If you're going to be using font, make sure to use size 42 points or larger. We'll be in a big auditorium and we want to make sure the folks at the back can also read your slides. This is really important if you're thinking about presenting graphs or data, where oftentimes there's some small, fine points that are really challenging to read. Pictures speak 1,000 words. Images have been proven to make content 55% more memorable than words alone. So as you think about your talk, do you need a picture of a particular pathology to help you explain a technical concept or a symptom to look for? Or would your slide be better served by a before and after photo? There's endless numbers of opportunities. You might even be thinking of something that is more metaphorical instead of literal. As you can see on this slide, while we're talking about high-resolution visuals, I've put a picture of an old camera. I don't need to say much more. When you're choosing images, we want to make sure you choose high-quality images, and this means high resolution because they're going to be projected on a big screen, and we don't want them to become all grainy and fuzzy at that large scale. This is something that the Firefly team will be double-checking in all of your slides to make sure that they will look great up on the big screen. Another thing to consider when you're crafting your slides is to make sure there's a broadcast safe zone in PowerPoint or Keynote. This means that you don't put any critical information or visuals or text in the far corners or edges of your slides because it might get cut off. One of the great questions we had in the webinar last week was about where to find images. And in the worksheet, we have already included some tips for finding high quality images. But a few quick points. Firstly, we recommend using images that are licensed under Creative Commons, which means you just need to acknowledge where it came from, or an image that you personally have the rights to, such as a photo that you've taken yourself or a stock image you've already purchased. If you're going to use an image that you've just found on the internet, include in the bottom, very, very tiny font, the web link of where you found it so that we can attribute credit to that source. Videos can also be included in your presentation, but please let us know in advance so we can can test the formatting, because the videos will need to be embedded into your PowerPoint, as we will not be able to switch between PowerPoint presentations and videos. If this is something you're considering, we can assist you with the technical side of it if you're struggling. We want your slides to knock it out of the park. So we're offering help with your slides, both in terms of the flow of your presentation, if you want to run that by someone, as well as the slides themselves. We have included a number of tips and instructions in the speaker's guide that has gone out with this recording, but we will also be fairly hands-on in helping you with this process, helping you review your slides and editing and cutting when needed. The deadline for the first draft of your slides is July 31st. Yes, this is very far in advance, and so you'll be wondering why it's so early. Well, this is so that we can provide some feedback and start the beginning of screening for any formatting issues. At this point in time, you may submit more than 10 slides because you'll likely still be working on the flow of your presentation or trying to choose between a number of different images that might represent an idea. Please let us know as soon as possible if you're considering taking up our offer to help with your slides and your presentation. We need to plan our resources and timing, and we will want to know how many people are going to be needing some help. The final slides are due September 8th, and this is 3 weeks ahead of the summit on September 29th and 30th. We need some time to craft a master slide deck and to ensure all of the formatting is perfect and ready for the big screen of the model auditorium in Sligo. Now that we've covered some details about actually creating your slide and crafting your message, step 3 is focusing on delivery, being ready for the day of, and that's all about practice. We've all been in a presentation where the speaker just reads their slides to the audience, and it's a horror for everyone involved. What remedies this is lots and lots of practice. As you practice, one of the things we suggest is timing yourself, because the time cap will be strictly enforced. If you're nervous about your presentation and don't yet want to start practicing with friends and family, find an empty room and record yourself on your phone. It is awkward, but it's worth it. By listening to yourself, you'll notice how many times do you say or pause awkwardly because you can't remember what comes next. This will help identify where you need to practice more or where you may need to change the order of your slides because it isn't flowing. Once you've done this, you may find it very helpful to practice with a friend or family member, or if you don't have someone available, a Firefly will be happy to work with you and listen to your presentation. Most importantly, practice makes perfect, so do this a lot, more times than you think you need to, because 10 minutes is going to go by so quickly. We wanted to let you know a few other things about the stage that you'll be presenting on, as they might influence how you prepare. The stage will have a casual setup with sofas and armchairs to give an informal living room feel. There will not be a podium or lectern on stage, so we encourage you to be able to speak without notes, since there will not be a place to rest them easily. This is another reason to practice until your presentation can be recited from memory. To help prompt you, we will have a guide screen in front of the stage, so you can see what slide comes next. So remember your glasses if you need them. The speakers will be set up with a lapel or headset mic, so that you will not have to worry about holding the microphone. This means that you can freely move about the stage and use your hands to talk. The one thing you will have in your hand is a small handheld remote to advance your slides. While you will control the transition from slide to slide, you will also have to keep focus on sticking to your 10-minute time limit. I again will reinforce that we will be very strict on ensuring that the time limit is kept, and we will cut you off if you happen to run over. But we really don't want to have to do that, so a member of the Firefly staff will be sitting in the front row and will hold up a sign that says 5 minutes remaining, 2 minutes remaining, and 1 minute remaining to help you stay on track with your pacing. Get ready for the Oscars. We'll be recording the presentations so that other people who are not able to attend the summit can benefit from the clinical gold that each of you share. One of the unique features that we are including in the Firefly Summit is a graphic recorder. This may be something that you've never seen before. What a graphic recorder does is they draw your presentation in real time. It's amazing to watch. They will capture the key themes and insights that you're sharing, and this will be part of the post-summit summary report that we share. The graphic recorder will be on stage with you, off to the side, so that everyone in the audience can watch your presentation come to life. We hope this information was helpful as you begin preparing your rapid-fire presentation for the Firefly Summit 2017. If you have any additional questions, please email me at andi@firefly.ie and we'll be happy to help.